With plenty of astronomy conferences every year, how do we choose the ones that are really worth it? Welcome back to Boring Astronomy. I'm Alessandro, your astronomer next door.
Boring astronomy.
In case you're wondering, I'm Alessandro. I have been in astronomy for the past 20 years, and I'm here trying to share with you what I have learned along the way. Every year there's tens of conferences. So how do we decide which conference to go and which conference to ignore? In some cases, the choice is easy. If a conference is completely out of your field, you just don't go. But you may have moments when two conferences, very similar, happen at the same time. This is actually the case for me this year. The first thing is, what do you expect from the conference? Do you want to show your latest results? Do you want to network? Are you job hunting? All these different aspects fall into why you go to one conference or another. It is important, as we said in the previous video of this series, to remember that there is a spectrum of conferences, from more generalistic to heavily specialized. So depending on what you're trying to do, you will go to one type of conference or another. Now there's different opinions on whether you should present or not present at a conference. I know of people who by now are senior, so in some cases they just bring a poster and then they use the conference for networking. In my case, what I always do, I ask for a presentation and then I let the science organizing committee to take care of me, and if they want to pass me to poster, fine. Otherwise, I'll just give a presentation. With 20 years of experience, I already have slides and I know how to present a talk. In any case, I normally advise for people to ask for a presentation. Even because in some cases, if you do not present at a conference, you may not be paid by your funding institution. So that actually solves the question for you. And speaking about money, budget is the pillar on which everything is based. You may or may not have travel money, and depending on the place where you work, the institute may have its travel money for you, or you may have to ask for funds. There is several aspects here. There is a sort of rule of thumb. I work in Europe, so I can give you my rules of thumb. 1 week conference, national, is of the order of 1,000 euros. International conference, but within this continent, is between 1,000 and 2,000 euros. And if we go overseas, if we go out of this continent, then we may easily be speaking about a 3,000 euros conference. Depending on the kind of conference you want to go, you may or may not be able to afford more than one conference in a year. In short, one conference across the Atlantic may be worth two conferences within the continent. So it is something that you have to take into account. As we hinted in the previous video, depending where you are in your career, may influence your decision of going to one conference over another. If you are younger, if you're just starting, some broader conference may be interesting so that you learn about different aspects. Like if you have the luck of attending some generic conference as an undergraduate, this may help you taking a decision of what to do as a graduate student. As a graduate student or a postdoc, it is important that you go to focused conferences, and this is where you're going to create your network, where you're going to show your work to your peers, and where you're going to go job hunting. Generic conferences become relevant when you become a little bit older, experienced, because that is where a lot of networking and science politics at high level also gets done. In my view, I normally prefer small conferences, up to 50 people. I find it a very nice environment, and I find it a very useful and productive environment. Up to 100, 150 people, it starts to become big, but it's normally is a focused conference that I can use to learn and share what I have. So it's not completely overwhelming. Above these numbers of 100, 150, all the way to hundreds of 1,000 or thousands, that is where, for me, it just becomes overwhelming. And I try to avoid these conferences as much as I can. This doesn't mean that I don't go. It means that I avoid them. There may be good reasons to go. A very good example is this year. In the same week, we have the meeting of the European Astronomical Society and a conference about my research. So, in the meeting of the European Astronomical Society, there is a one-day sub-meeting which is exactly about the sub-topic that I am interested in. And in this other conference, my sub-topic is probably less represented. I ended up having to make a trade-off between a huge conference and a smaller conference. And at the end I decided that because of this super specialized session, I would go to this massive conference and forget about this other one. These kind of decisions are not easy and are never easy, but it's some sort of decisions that at some point you have to start taking. There was another important decision I had to make. I was invited to a conference in September. Once upon a time, when you were invited to a conference, they would pay you the flight, the lodging, everything. Nowadays, we invite you to the conference means, can you please come? And that's it. Anyway, I got invited to this conference. I was also offered a reasonable discount on conference fee and lodging, but I literally don't have travel money for that part of the year. So, never mind, I had to skip. And it breaks my heart, but it's objective, and under objective circumstances, there's no fear of missing out. If you don't have money, you don't go. Easy, right? There is one important bit in how to choose a conference, and is, where do I find the information? The information, you normally get it from mailing lists. For example, the mailing list of the Spanish Astronomical Society provides a lot of invitations to a lot of conferences, but also in many cases you are just contacted by colleagues or some friends, or even Facebook sometimes can be useful. Over the past many years, the main source of information for me has been this. This is the website of the Canadian Astronomy Data Centre. They are fantastic, they make a great work, and if you come here to services, they have meetings. And this is basically a database of all the international astronomy meetings happening. You can ask for meeting this month, and here you go. This is June 2025, and you have dissipation yields, novel astrophysical mechanisms, the art of the invisible force, and I don't even know what this is about. Universe AI, this is quite interesting. Actually, a student of our group is attending it. So this is something that normally at the beginning of the year, what I do is I come here and I check what are the conferences which are already announced and that can be interesting for me, and I start marking them. And if there are some conferences which are interesting for some of my collaborators, or even better for my students or postdocs, then I mark them down and I inform them, there is a chance that you may want to go here or there, and then we start discussing funding opportunities. So, to sum up, if you want to go to a conference, first things first, check out why you want to go there, what you want to do at the conference. Always ask for a presentation, then let the SOC do their job. Check if you have enough money to go before starting to move things, and make sure you go to conferences, because that's where the interesting stuff happens. And next time we start to discuss how we organize for a conference. And the meeting of the European Astronomical Society is happening in 3 weeks, so we are going to use these videos to show you how to get ready for a conference. So I'll see you at the next video. Ciao!